What's going on, Ty's Bitcoin Academy? I am George from Generation Crypto, and in this video lesson we're going over technical analysis. What is TA? It is the study of these charts, of how money comes in and out of the market and how it affects our trades and our investments. How relevant is this to your scope? If you are a buy and hold investor, if you're going to hold an asset for 4 months, 6 months, or a long period of time, it's not going to be very relevant to what you're doing. But if you want to come into the crypto market and you want to do momentum trades and swing trades and hold tokens for days, maybe a week or two, then this is something you should really pay attention to, and you should study these charts. There's a lot that goes into technical analysis. There are hundreds of indicators, hundreds of strategies. So to keep things simple for this lesson, we're going to do an introduction. We're going to cover some of the basics. That way when you look at these charts, you can understand what you're looking at. So we're going to go ahead and cover candlesticks and time frames. We're going to cover trends, support and resistance. And to finish off, I'm going to demonstrate to you one of my favorite breakout patterns. Let's go ahead and get started with candlesticks. So come on in and dive in. We're going to focus on this chart. This is going to be Lumen. Candlesticks represent price action within a certain time frame. We're currently on a 15-minute time frame, and we can adjust that up in the top left, and that's going to be standard across most charting platforms. Whatever time frame we select is going to be represented by one candle. So every candlestick on this chart represents 15 minutes of price action. If we were to go to a 2-hour time frame, then every candle is going to represent 2 hours worth of price action. Now, what's the difference between red candles and green candles? A green candle represents an increase in price action over a time frame, and a red candle represents a decrease in price action over a time frame. That being said, a green candle is going to start the time frame at a low price and close at a higher one, and the opposite of that, a red candle is going to start the time frame at a high price and close at a lower one. Now, if we observe this really long green candle, that tells us that there's been a lot of buying happening on Lumen, and that Lumen opened at a price of 958 satoshis and it closed at a price of 1149. Now, as for the wicks, we see these long white wicks that are sticking out from the top of the candles and from the bottom of the candles. Wicks represent where the price action went during a time frame outside the opening and closing of the time frame. So this candle would have opened at 1150, and during the course of this 2-hour time frame, the price actually dropped down, but it got bought back up above the open and now is currently fighting to close somewhere up here. Now, since we are talking about time frames are really important for us to establish a trend, to understand which way, which direction the currency you're holding is headed, whether it's headed up or down. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Lumen on a 1-day chart, and we're going to zoom out. And here we see that Lumen is actually trading up. It's trending upwards, and we're going to really hone in and find out how we establish a trend using trend lines and support and resistance. Trend lines are going to be a tool that within your drawing tools is going to be in the top left of your screen. And what we're going to do to establish a trend, we're going to draw a trend line across all the lows, the latest lows. The low is going to be where the price action is at its lowest, and the high is going to be where the price action is at its highest. I really like a 1-day chart because it represents what's happening in the big picture. I can see what's happening day to day with this token, whether it is constantly gaining or bullish, or whether it is constantly losing and bearish. Let's go ahead and draw a trend line on Lumen, and we're going to draw a trend line on the lows, otherwise known as support. Going to go ahead and start the trend line here by clicking, and we're going to draw it across our lows. Now Lumen is actually in an aggressive upwards trend because this was our trend line across our previous lows, and if it doesn't match up with our current lows, they're a lot higher, so it's getting more and more aggressive. That tells us that Lumen is currently and clearly in an uptrend. If we were to enter this trade somewhere around here, we are very much more likely to achieve gains because the direction of the trend is headed up. And this is one of my main disciplines as a trader. I never trade against the long-term trend. Now back to establishing the trend, we're going to draw a trend line across all the highs on Lumen, or the recent ones. We're going to use the last two previous highs. Now with all these bars representing one day, we're going back to as far, we're going to start right here. We're going back to as far as November 4th. And today we are in December 14th. So for the last 6 weeks, this token, this chart, this currency has been gaining value. Entering this trade for a long position because the trend is going upwards is going to be very likely to produce gains. Therefore, the statement, the trend is your friend. Now, if we were to go back in time, when Lumen was not in an uptrend, as we can clearly see down here, we have lower highs and we have lower lows. Buying Lumen and investing anytime the token is in a downtrend is going to be catastrophic because we cannot simply trade against the trend. Now that we've established what trends are and how to identify an uptrend and a downtrend, we're going to dig a little deeper on support and resistance and how they relate to a chart. And for that example, I'm going to use Ardor. And here we can clearly see that the price is holding at this support level, and that's why it's called support, because it is supporting the chart from falling, and the support level is actually holding across. We're going to go ahead and draw a trend line at our last support, and we're going to drag it all the way across and click again. And now we can clearly see that the price is being supported at this level, and it does not want to drip any lower. Now markets have opposing forces. Just like we have support, there's also a force called resistance. Resistance is where the chart struggles to break past a certain price. And on Ardor, we're going to draw our resistance line. We're going to start at the last area of resistance, and we're going to cover as many peaks as we can. We notice that Ardor tried to break through resistance once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, and so on. Now what does this all mean in the long-term scope? Now we know that we know support, we know resistance, and we know trends. Now how does this apply on a big picture in order to trade? In order to do that, we're going to zoom out. And by doing so, we're also going to increase our time frame. We're going to go to a 3-hour time frame. And now the chart looks a little different. Little house cleaning. And here we see that Ardor was actually trading a little lower, and it looked like it was in a downtrend, but we had a massive increase in price over a short period of time, and this is called a breakout. And what's really interesting is that not only did we have a breakout, but the breakout held over the last level of resistance. And that means that Ardor is gaining a lot of strength. So we're going to grab our previous trend line and we're going to drag it across so we can better see the price action. Observing Ardor from a technical perspective, we can confirm that this chart is getting stronger, that if you are holding these tokens, that your investment is actually gaining over this period of time. Why? Because not only did we have a breakout, but the breakout actually rested right at the previous resistance. Anytime we have a resistance that turns into support, we can positively confirm that this chart is getting stronger. Now that we've covered trends, time frames, candlesticks, support and resistance, we're going to start from scratch on Ardor. We're going to put it all together, and I'm going to demonstrate to you my favorite breakout pattern, and this is where I actually entered this trade, and really dive in. So Ardor really got my attention when it was trading in a range and it broke out of a range. Now range is a new word. The first time I say this, I'm going to explain this to you. A range is identified when a chart is trading within a tight channel, where we have constant resistance and constant support. And this is our resistance, and here's our support. And technically, a range is identified when we have three touches. We have the first touch, second touch, third touch, 4, 5, and 6. Now the next time Ardor tried to break through this range, it actually broke out. And this is where Ardor actually got our attention. And we waited for a pullback, and it actually pulled all the way back down. But on the way back up, it was in a range once again. We have three touches. Here's our resistance. Here's our support. We had the first touch, second touch, third touch. We did not have a fourth touch, and when it went to test that resistance again, it broke through. Now once Ardor broke through, it formed a pennant, and this is my favorite breakout formation. We're going to go into the 30-minute time frame to really examine the pennant so I can demonstrate to you what it looks like and what it is. A pennant is when a chart holds a similar high, a similar resistance, but support gets stronger. It narrows in, and it forms somewhat of an upwards triangle. And we're going to draw that. Now, if we were looking at Ardor that day, we wouldn't have any more data than what we can see as of now. And here we are. The move is developing. It's developing. And now we see price constriction. The price is actually constricted, and here we have an upwards triangle. This is our resistance, and this is our support. And as we can notice that anytime we have higher lows, that a token is an uptrend. But when we have higher lows in the same highs, higher support and the same resistance, as long as the buying volume keeps up, there's going to be an upward squeeze, otherwise known as a breakout. Now when I saw Ardor forming this pennant, I placed a buy, and as the move developed, we got some really good gains. And now we notice that Ardor was shaping up for another pennant. As the time frame goes by, we see the same pattern, or a very similar pattern, where there are higher lows and similar highs, which demonstrates that we're going into another squeeze. Well, Bitcoin Academy, now that we know how to read candlesticks, utilize time frames, and identify the long-term trend before entering a trade, Always make sure to identify your support and resistance by drawing trend lines. That way you can really confirm what you're seeing without just assuming. It's always good to confirm and confirm again and examine your findings with somebody else before entering a trade. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video lesson.